Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sarah Jane, and I am delighted to be joined by Paul Newman for our program today. Paul, thank you for joining us to share.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to being on the program. So cheers.
No, thank you. And Paul's here to share with us healing with shamanic journeying. Let me do more of an introduction to Paul. Paul's journey of conscious growth began with an early awakening, born in the 80s, and that's the 1980s, into a family with hidden psychic abilities due to religious beliefs. Paul observed his grandfather's issues with electronics and his grandmother's predictive talents. However, his mother encouraged his spiritual pursuits, allowing his gifts to flourish. With a background in science and engineering, Paul's curiosity about free energy led him back to his spiritual path. A monumental awakening in London left him highly connected but ungrounded, compelling him to learn control. His godmother, a shaman, guided him, unlocking deep spiritual realms. Passionate and clear on his purpose, Paul sought further teachings, with spirit guides as his greatest mentors. Today, Paul specializes in healing, clairvoyance, psychic mediumship, and shamanic practices. Through Newman's psychic studies, he teaches globally, helping students develop their gifts and become successful mediums, healers, clairvoyants, and shamanic practitioners. His students gain a great connection with spirit, making him immensely proud. Paul, thank you for joining us. And let's start by saying, I know there's an element of your story in your bio, but share a little more about that and why this is such a passion for you.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I always had like healing hands. Some people call it chi energy or like Reiki energy coming out of your hands, and I'd play with it. I didn't know how to use it. I'd just play with it and things like that, and bounce it around. Think I was making fireballs and all sorts. And then like went into my teenage years. Like I had fun, partied, had children, so I lived a pretty like standard life. And then I got to I was in London working for my old job, and when I was in London, there was a couple that came into the bar every day of the hotel we were staying in, and we didn't connect with them. But then, like on the last night we were there, and we were there for months. And last night we finally chatted to them, and they went, "We've been waiting for you to speak to me." And I was like, "Oh, that's a bit odd. That's a bit odd." And then so they said, "Oh, do you want to sit down and have a drink?" So we sat down. I thought they spiked my drink because I could feel this energy going from here like this. And I asked them, I was like, "Have you spiked my drink?" And they laughed and they're like, "No, no, no." And then one of their other friends came, and I've just felt this connection with everyone, apart from my friend that I was with, but he leads a different type of life. So it was funny, and then I was observing, and one of the friends came, and I asked something in my head, and they answered with their mouth, and obviously that blew my mind. You know that just blew me away. And then that's how I learned how to open up, if that makes sense. I learned how to open up. So I had all this energy, but it was only from here. And this was the issue. I started to get missing time, like 3 hours of the day, never remember any driving anywhere. So I just asked it to stop, and it stopped. Then I got onto my godmum, who's been into the spiritual. I promised my mum that she'd look after my spiritual path when I was a wee little dot, because she saw something in me. And then so she started giving me the tools to, protect myself, how to open up properly. And then eventually took me on my first shamanic journey as well. And she was like, "You need to find a teacher around." So I sought out teachers local to where I live, and that disbanded. And because I was out there, this was more on a psychic level rather than the shamanic level. So and that disbanded. And the group just asked me, can you run it? Because I was the one out there doing the readings and the mediumship and things like that. And I was like, I'll give it a go. I can ask my guides. I don't, like really know. And that's where the guides came in and become the greatest teacher. And why I'm so passionate about it, it's not just the journey of, oh wow, I can connect to spirits, or I'm honoring the ancestors in the shamanic realms, or meeting power animals and all sorts of spirits and things like that. It's the journey that it's done for me and how much healing I've had on this path, because I believe you can't have one without the other. It's a very growth driven path. When we're energy healing, shamanic healing, psychic healing, mediumship, Reiki, anything, you have to grow personally yourself. And the reason I'm so passionate about what we do is that I know how it's helped me, and also what I've seen with other people and me teaching them the way to journey, the way to heal, the way to be honest with themselves, and so on. It's just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I really love it, and it makes my heart sing talking about it.
No, you can see you're passionate about it. But actually, there was something you said in there that was really, really interesting, because for years, either walking somewhere, a sort of a reasonable distance, even if it was walking home from work, I would lose sections of my walk home. Driving was almost the scariest one. It was, hang on, I've just been driven how many miles down the motorway and I don't remember driving it. And this was way before I was aware of anything that I do. Hadn't I hadn't got any awareness at all, but I would lose time.
Yeah.
And I didn't. But actually, with what you're saying, that I was thinking, okay, fine. So I lost time.
Yeah.
I didn't worry about it. But also, I suppose what I'm saying is, if there is anybody listening that heard that from you, and it was just like, but that happens to me. And it can happen. And it used to happen quite regularly.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay. Is there something more to it that actually, are you actually almost stepping into the power of now? I don't know. Are you going into some meditation when you're working or driving? Sort of, have you got any thoughts about what that might be?
Yeah, so like I believe, say for me, well, if you're driving, you can go into a trance-like state, and if you're walking on the same place quite often, you can go in because your body's used to it, and it's that rhythmic thing. So that can give us a missing time thing. But also for me, what I came to realize is that because all my energy was here and it wasn't flowing all around my body, so it didn't really have anywhere to ground or dissipate or anything like that, and there was no control over it. That's what was really kicking in the missing time. And it was almost like it would be so much energy, bang, switch off, and then it could be guides doing it as well. But the good thing is, driving, I was safe. But I just wouldn't have any recollection of that journey at all. And I think if people are having that, it could be that you're having a bit of a precursor to a realization or an opening up situation where grounding and using all your chakras rather than just your third eye, because people get wrapped up so much in the third eye. But that's like putting the penthouse on a building before you build the foundations, if that makes sense. Right. And so it just using all that so that energy can dissipate and flow easily around you. That I think it can help a lot. But definitely this trance-like state, or entering these like transcendental sort of states where you're there. And I believe is that it gives our spirit team a chance to tune us. Oh, hang on, let's tune this energy field up so that we can connect to them and they can connect to us. So yeah, that's sort of thoughts and what I've sort of come to understand about that.
No, brilliant, because I think there are going to be people out there and it may be the beginning of their journey. And so actually this next question I have for you is also about for people who, oh, shamanic journeying. I've heard about that, but what is it? So can you give us what is shamanic journeying? Can you just what I'm describing it maybe isn't the quite the right word, but what is the process? So I know you're going to give us a chance to experience it, but what is the process? Potentially the type of thing people may be aware of, and it doesn't matter if they aren't aware of anything the first time, but can you explain a little bit about what shamanic journeying is so that folks have got a sense of what it is?
Yeah, so so with shamanic journeying, first of all, we go to three main worlds. It's also known as spirit flight, and you are putting yourself into a trance-like state using a drum. That's the way I do it. You can meditate and do it, but the drum changes the brainwaves to a delta state so that we can visualize and experience more and feel more, sense more, know more. And there's three main worlds really. There's the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world. The lower world is underneath us. It's in the ground. Now it's not hell. You know it's not that. It's actually a beautiful landscape. But when you first start to journey, it can be, say you're going to the lower, it can feel like you're in a tunnel. You've got to go down. You've got to find a way down. So you could go through a tree, you could climb down roots or slide down. But you've got to find a way, and it can feel like it's like a bit of a tunnel. Now, the reason it's called journeying, it's not like a meditation where we sit and things happen to us. Yeah, we're actively seeking. Okay, so we always do it with an intent, and I like to say like it's like see feel. Okay, so it's not like you're gonna have necessarily loads of visuals straight away. You can see feel your way around. So that's going to be perceiving with all your sensory perception. It's like walking up the stairs. You don't look at the banister when you walk up the stairs. You know it's there. Or like Daredevil perceives. That's a good one that I use. Like, so the superhero Daredevil's blind, but he makes the whole world up with his other senses. But then it can become very real and so on. So if we were going to the lower world for me is a beautiful landscape. They say the animals reside there, but the animals I find can be anywhere. But the lower world is linked to our unconscious mind. So there's a lot of stories and messages that can come out from us that we don't realize are there. And they come out, and they might come out in symbols. They might come out in, if you do see an animal, I always say use the mirror technique, and which we should use a lot with a lot of people as well, where what we see in someone else can be a reflection of us. Not everyone, but sometimes it's good to ask that. But say if there's an animal, for instance, I have a polar bear that I work with, and like at first when I met him, he was quite like he was quite aggressive. We had a tumble, a rough and tumble, and then we became friends. But the polar bear is in the north, okay, and the north is on the medicine wheel. But that's represented with the mind, and I can be quite dogmatic in my mind, like boom, boom, but mostly to myself, not to others. It's mostly to myself. So it was at the time, it was a representation of that, that fight that I have on in my mind. Now, we don't need to journey for a long time, like once you find your way, say to the lower world, but like you always go and come back that way. So it's like walking across a grassy path, opening up backwards and forwards, and then it's there. And the way I look at it, it's like putting a neuro pathway from your conscious brain to your unconscious brain, and it sets that up. You're rewriting and rewiring your brain, like doing this work. And it's and once you have that pathway, it's literally you'll go. I often teach people to start at a tree. Not everyone starts at a tree. Some people might have a hole in the ground or something like that. But as soon as you see that tree, it triggers that response in your brain to go, oh, we're going somewhere. We're going to go find out something. what are we finding out? And you say the intent is, oh, we're finding that out. So it opens up that neural pathway that you can go down, and basically you start to rewrite your brain. And I was telling someone today, a student of mine, and how like all the techniques I've used for self-healing and helping others heal and stuff like that, through journeying, they've wired it in a certain way that I can access it quickly, if that makes sense. And that's because of the drumming. So I'm not in long processes anymore. I'm in, I feel, I understand, and then I can clamber through, if that makes sense. Now we have the middle world as well. So the middle world is our world. Yeah, it's our existence. And what's beautiful, I've been to South America. They journey the same. They journey the lower middle world. I've been with the shamans out there, as well as taking the medicines as well. But they journey them worlds. And the way that sort of we're doing it mostly is using the drum. Is more like the Asian area, so Mongolia, Siberia, that sort of Nepal, like they use the drum to change their brain waves to journey. And so the middle world we tend to leave alone to start off with because it's tricky. Okay, like don't just go, and that's where you get your remote viewing, you get spirit flight in this world. But like our world, not everything is always as it seems. So we get proficient in the lower and the upper world. So the upper world is a place where we can go and access our higher self. So and this is a beautiful place. Everyone's upper world's different. Like and you tend to find there's people that prefer one world than the other. But for me, if you prefer one world than the other, what part of you is stopping you going in to the other world to get your biggest healing, if that makes sense? And so in the upper world, there could be angels, the interdimensional beings, there could be spirit guides, loved ones, you know, like I said, your higher selves up there and stuff like that. So they're the basic worlds that we journey. And each one accesses a different part of us. And they're very like Tolkien-esque, you know, like my lower world is very Tolkien-esque. It's got like mountains over one way, it's got lava in another bit, it's got the snowy kingdom, it's got, you know, big lakes, you know, dark, we used to be dark lakes, now are clear, so that's a good thing, because when we go into the dark lakes, it's our emotions and so on. So every part of the journey has a little story and a symbol to it, because our unconscious and the superconscious works better in symbols, actions, and rather than words of languages and so on, because they can get skewed. Yes, that's a little bit about it.
No, thank you very much indeed. And we've actually got Rebecca, John, and Laura all saying hi.
Hi, Rebecca, John, and Laura.
So, and folks, if you've got any questions for Paul, please do ask. Now that I don't know, is there anything more that you'd like to share before potentially going in and actually just doing a sort of a short sort of practice?
So journeying for me, I just like, so it always starts at the beginning. Okay, so often when people journey, like, and it was the same for me, it took a long time to get where we needed to get to. You know, you might be, oh, nothing's happening, but you've got to tell your unconscious self that I'm ready to look at this part of me. I'm ready to look at this part of me. I'm ready to enter these worlds, and so on. So now journeying is led, and it's the beginning steps when we do for ourselves to then being able to journey first. Say, and once we get there, we can journey to empower us. So we could go get something like an empowerment animal. Now, some cultures around the world see the animals as representation of ancestors of theirs. Other cultures, South America particularly, see the animal as the presence of the animal. And I like that version, the presence of the animal. I'm not discounting it. It could be an ancestor, but I like that presence of the animal, what that animal brings to me. And so each animal, we'll get it and we'll bring it back and we would use it in this world. So when I first met my wolf, I I was at my godmother's under the covers like that, and like I could feel this weight on the bed, like a dog lying on the bed, but it was my wolf, and it was like, it was quite intense, you know. I was like, whoa. And then one of my guides showed up in thunder and lightning, and you know, it's very, very real in this world as well. And yeah, so and then journeying can lead on to all different things like soul retrievals. So we can get fragments of our souls when we have soul loss in life. And this is all using the drum and going, so we can go to the lower world, clear people's energies or clear our own, you know, give ourselves a good dust off and cleanse our aura and things like that. And then we can go off into the middle world to find out where a traumatic event has happened, and that's where we might have had some soul loss, where we've left a soul fragment, and we can retrieve that and put it back into us, or put it into others, or someone else's soul fragment into them. And then it's led, like journeying is like the healings that I've had, you know, and discoveries of like going back and journeying, say, the medicine wheel as well. So that's a whole teachings in itself, lifelong teachings, where we journey the 4 directions, or there could be 7 directions below and above and inside as well. And then it can go up to like 32 if we need to. That's a long time. That's a lot of drumming. Excuse me. And but in that you get all different aspects of mind, body, spirit, and emotion as well. So, but it all stems. That's why I wanted to talk about journeying, because it all stems back from the journey, from doing the shamanic journey, using the drum to change our consciousness to move on. And I was literally talking with my partner the other day, and she was describing this hypnotherapy technique. And basically what the hypnotherapist has stumbled across in his way is journeying, you know, like it is. And it's like, this has been going for millennia, you know, like using the drum to travel to other spaces and appease the spirits in other spaces and make good in our world as well.
No, excellent. Thank you for that. We've got a couple of questions, but if we do the journey first, then we can come back to those. Yep. So I hope that's okay, Rebecca. And sort of and I think we had sort of Sue and Peter joined in as well. So sort of we've got a number of people that said hi.
Yeah, hello. Yeah. So
if I hand over to you,
yeah, take you through it. Yeah. So like I explained earlier, I always say we always start at a tree. Okay, so I'm going to take you on a way to meet your tree, your starting point, which is the place where it triggers that the unconscious to go, oh, we're doing this now. So now this tree could be a tree that you've played upon when you were a child. It could be one you fell out of. It could be one in a family member's garden when you were a child. It could be one in your garden. It could be one when you go for a walk that you see. And you're like, oh, I like that tree. You know, you don't know why, but you like that tree. It could be one that you hug. You know, like love a good tree hug as well. It can also be a tree that you don't know yet. Some people have the world tree, you know, and they just use the world tree. But I like the personal touch, and that's how I learn. You know, that's how I learn. So, and it seems to work. So what we're going to do, we'll just do a little bit of breath to start off with, to activate ourselves. And bring in the elements and the Great Spirit. So we often use the Great Spirit, or it should be the Great Spirits, but through time it's the Great Spirit. But for me, it's the interconnecting bit of everyone, known by many names, but I'm just going to use the Great Spirit for what we do. So yeah, so if you just close your eyes and take, my voice will change a little bit as I do this because my guide steps close. So yeah, so close your eyes and take a deep breath in and out. In and out. With every breath in, you relax more and more. Now breathe in consciousness. Breathe out consciousness. Breathe in fire. Breathe out fire. Breathe in water. Breathe out water. Breathe in earth. Breathe out earth. Breathe in air. Breathe out air. Breathe in love. Breathe out love. Breathe in the Great Spirit. Breathe out the Great Spirit. In front of you is a tree. Go up to this tree and open your heart and swap energies with the tree. Walk around the tree, noticing the roots. And look up through the branches. Smell the tree. And ask the tree if it is your journey tree. And feel the answer. Now take some steps back, thanking the tree. And take some more steps back and start to wake up and come back into the room you're in. So that's the tree that we'll start from. Did you meet a tree, Sarah? Yeah. Okay. So if people get mixed trees and stuff like that, the one that you felt was right, go to that. Some people might have two. Some people can have one to go to the lower world and one to go to the upper world and so on. So that's always our starting point. No matter when you journey, wherever you go, you start at that tree. Now, when we actually journey, I'll just go through the fact of journey, and now we've met the tree. So you want to go down. We're going to go to the lower world to start. So sometimes it might be a case you slide down the roots. If a doorway, excuse me, may open. Some stairs might go down. You know, if you're lucky, stairs go down. You might have to dig down. You've got to make yourself get down there. You journey with intent. Okay, so you journey with a reason. We're not just go, I'll just go on a journey. It's like, okay, just go on a journey and you won't go very far. We've got a journey with a reason. So now, as you journey, you keep going. It can be a tunnel. So, and that way can get shut. Okay, that way can be narrowed up. So you've got to find a way. Just like if you're driving somewhere and the road was blocked, you'd go another route. So it's similar. Now, where we're going is it because it's heavily linked to the unconscious minds. Now we have an internal trickster, okay, that will stop us going places, because our unconscious is protecting us. Okay, it's protecting us from yesteryear. Something that's happened in yesteryear. We're very good at putting things in boxes, and what we'll do, put it in that box, stick a load of emotion around it so we can't see it, and maybe put something that we're fearful of in front of it as well, just so that we don't go there. So when we journey, we've got to be brave. Okay, and I always say this to people: if you come to a cliff, jump off it. Yeah, you prove to yourself. Yeah, go for it. And that's true in life. I don't mean literally, but if you come up against something, go for it. That you want to run away from, that's where you've got to go. So as you're journeying down, it could be like that tunnel effect. Keep going. Be mindful that, okay, this is here because it serves a purpose. I'm trying to protect myself, but say to yourself, I'm ready to go through now. I'm ready to break down my barriers, break down my conditioning, break down my societal condition, family conditioning, and my own conditioning I've put on myself, to truly find out who I am, and to truly become happy with who I am. So when you come up against anything like that, if you see something that you're fearful of, for instance, like a spider, I'm just using that as general, like just walk on by, just go, yep, thank you very much, I'll walk on by. So what I'll do, I'll drum for a little bit. I'll just do a quick journey, and the intention, I'd say, is just to go explore. So it's about finding your way there, and if you don't get there this first time, don't worry, just go the same way and keep finding it, and the world will expand out. Okay. Some of the greatest practitioners I've worked with and taught, including myself, we didn't get there for the first time. The seed that grows sprouts last is the one that's there at the end of the season as a flower. So, right. So when I drum, you're here. Let me just make sure she's ready. When I drum, you're here. That's the normal beat that you drum to, and it might change a little bit, but when you hear this, it's time to turn around and come back the way that you went. And if you get there quicker, that's fine, but as long as you're coming back up from the tree, that's the most important bit, because we're opening up that pathway. Remember, this is what this exercise is about. Right, so if you close your eyes and go to the tree and say out loud, I'm going to the lower world to explore. way back now, just coming back, start to wake up. Excellent. Yeah, so the idea of the person drumming is that they would keep drumming until everyone comes back from the journey. We don't leave people in there, like, because as you get more advanced in it, there's more that's going on. You're contending with the spirits in that world and appeasing spirits in this world. You're shifting and clearing things that could be of a nature that's not, that we don't want it around, like that. And so we don't leave people down there, if that makes sense. Now, how would that be?
Yeah, in some respects, I think that's probably the first time, and certainly sort of that connecting with the tree, absolutely not a problem. It's a tree that in meditation I've connected with and gone down the route. But do you know what? It was just black.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I didn't get the sense that there was any going down the routes or anything. It was just like, okay, fine. And then I thought, okay, so what you said about the dark and the emotion, and I thought, okay, I've done masses and masses of inner child work, but I appreciate its layers of the onion. There is always going to be something new. If we've come to the end of our own healing journey, then how much support can we be to others, because we're not connected to it anymore. So I thought, okay, fine. There's obviously something. I got the sense there was probably an awful lot of pain around something. So I've got some more work to do with that. But thank you for that. And as you were coming towards the end of it, I felt that it was lightening somehow. And so I don't necessarily always have to know what it's about. And I think it's trusting that sometimes it's happening. But when you were asking us to do the breaths to connect with the tree, and it was just like, and you brought in the element of fire, what was so wonderful was I got the dragons, because I work with so many dragons. The energy of fire was the energy of dragons.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, and that is for me. So because when we open up or we do the medicine wheel, we have animals in certain directions, and in the east, for me, it's a dragon. That was the first animal that I came across, and he protects my journey tree, and he protects my way down, and the element, and anything that flies, it's the connection between us and the spirit world. So it's traditionally like the birds are the connection from our world and the upper and the world up above. So the dragons are the same. And in that there's a lot of transformation. So maybe like from you saying that, for me, because we always integrate, so me deciphering it, you have the dragons coming, so it's time to transform. There could be an element of scorched earth, so where it's like, right, we need to torch that bit and let it regrow again, into what it's meant to be at some place. Now it's not, that was a very quick journey, because we're on the interview, so it's very quick. Normally we go for 8, 10, 12 minutes, something like that. So it gives you a chance to get beyond the darkness, so, and often people say they can feel like they're in a cavern or something like that, and it's just dark, but this is where you got to find a way. Sometimes you have to dig more, sometimes, it's, and it swings, and it's like that. But that would be, that tree is your starting point, and that's what the exercise is about. And then you can go for longer. And if you haven't got your own drum, there's stuff online, stuff on my own website that you can download for nothing to have the drum beat like that. But yeah, so and there's always a message in it. Like you said, you come back, well, there's obviously something else, and it might be like there's some shadow aspects, or it could be that okay, like I said at the beginning, you're just going to be faced with this dark bit. Are you truly ready to go through? And sometimes it's as simple as picking up your inner child, picking up your little girl, or picking up, my case, my little boy. At the beginning, just go, come on in, let's go for it. and it could be as simple as that, and then all of a sudden they start showing the way, because and they start taking us on that journey. So yeah, no, nice. Yeah, thank you.
No, brilliant. Thank you. Right, now we've got some questions, so let's go through these. Okay, and I'm going to go in the order as they were received. So going back to when we were talking about the losing time, and so Rebecca's put, I have lost time for the first time and wondered what is that. So I'm thinking potentially you've answered that, but I don't know whether you've got anything you'd like to add to that.
Yeah. So so that, it can be that the fact that you're opening up, and you're starting to open up, but you've really got to really make sure your energy's dissipated. Now, I used a technique, and it was taught to me. It was called being linked in. So that's when all our chakras are firing and we're open, and this is when we're open to receive spirit energy. A bit like when people do Reiki and they open up, and they can receive. So, but if we're not grounded and we're going around like that, or if we fall asleep like that, our dreams can be very big, and you can get that sense of like missing time. Now, I don't want to go down scaring people's roots, but it could be that missing time is you're going out into the astral world. If you're sitting on a chair, you're going out into the astral world, you're learning, you're growing, but your consciousness isn't ready to understand it yet, but your being has accepted it, if that makes sense. So it's just dialing the knobs in. So I feel it could be something around that.
That makes a huge amount of sense. Okay, then Rebecca says, am I understanding it as higher beta state to do with the higher state that you go into?
Okay, so yeah, so the drum is changing the brainwaves to delta, so it's beyond beta. So you get alpha, beta, theta, the delta, theta. I get confused, but it's definitely the delta state. So what it's doing, it's actually giving all your neurons and all your your brain chatter and stuff. It's just, and putting it into more of a slow rhythm. So then we're able to accept and hear what the unconscious is saying, rather than with the conscious mind. I've got to do this, got to do that. What's for washing up? What I've got to do the washing up later. That mind. But all that mind is the logical mind and the ego mind saying, no, don't forget me. Like when we do this work, and it's to be expected. Sometimes I can journey, and all of a sudden I'm thinking like, oh, I've got to, I've got to message them back. I've got to do, and I'm like, okay, thank you. Then I see that's me tricking me from my experience, or unlocking what we do. So our bodies, our system's great for that. This almost like self-preservation sort of thing. So yeah, so it changes it, and that's what I believe. It changes it into a delta state. So the rhythm is slow, and actually the vibrations are firing our neurons in almost a different pulse, if that makes sense, so that we can see the go on these journeys.
No, brilliant, thank you. Louise says, what is your most profound journey, and what did it represent?
Well, yeah, I know, Louise, and that's and the questions we ask ourselves when we when we journey. We ask ourselves certain questions, and the first one is, what did it represent? So thank you, Louise. I've had so many. I've had so many. I think doing some journeys, some soul retrieval work on myself was big. Journeying back in time, and it was funny actually. I've explored the medicine route as well, because I like my shamanic work. So, and the medicines are another way to get into this altered state. So I went away and had some medicine, and a lady there said to me, you need to look at when you were young, when you were 2, your mother left you in the cot crying, yeah, and that's what she could see. Like, I was like, oh, did she? I was like, my mum was really nice. Do you know what I mean? She was a great mum. thought nothing of it, but obviously I'd done something. And it wasn't until a year later, literally a year later, and I went on this journey, and there I was in this cot. So, and it was funny. It was I think it was a medicine wheel journey, and it was to the west I went. So, and when we do the medicine wheel, we do the 4 directions, and always there's some that are harder for some people than the others, but it completes the story. So I went off to the west, and now my wolf has maybe have a little shortcut, so we're not just traveling for ages. So I ride the back of the wolf, go down into the well, ride the back of the wolf. And then, but then I used to always come across a yak, and the yak was notoriously slow. Okay, I'd get on the back, and I'd be like, "Come on, then." I'd be like, "Nope, we got to take our time on this one," and it'd be for ages. Imagine like felt like the tired warrior on the horse, sort of like getting back to, it'd be a long time trudging through these tunnels, and then I remember getting out. And then climbing out of this shaft, and then went down into this cavern bit, and this is where I saw my mum, like it was like shouting at me in my cot. I saw it. I saw the scene, and this was like a year later, and I was like, Jesus, like I didn't realise that was there, because I was young, like you don't realise, but our unconscious brain is a beacon, our subconscious, whatever you want to call it, it's a beacon to absorb everything that goes on, and it remembers and it files, and I'll put that one in there, put that one in there. This, this could have led to people pleasing behavior in myself, just that one incident, so I was there and I saw it, and it was like I got me, and it wasn't the soul retrieval, it was the medicine wheel, so I made a mistake with that. And then I carried on around the wheel. But what happened is, once I saw the scene, like an owl that I have worked with me, a barn owl, that was beautiful. So I'm just going to sidetrack a little. Like I met the barn owl in a journey, and when I came, and barn owl, there's only 10,000 in the UK. They're pretty rare. Okay, even though people think there's a lot of them, there's a lot more other owls. And I was driving home, and I saw a barn owl almost like fly at my car on the way home. Got home, and I was having a cigarette on my porch at the front, and a barn owl, same night, just flew in front of me, looking at me. And it's like, that's definite confirmation that he's there as an animal, and they're pretty rare. So this barn owl came down, picked me up, took me up, and as he done that, the whole area started to grow into a beautiful jungle. Yeah, so it grew into this beautiful jungle. So I had gone to this place where I accepted that had happened, and the fact that it grew into this new life, this new jungle. We mentioned Scorch Earth earlier. It was a bit like that. I didn't have to set fire to it. It just went. Oh, in fact, actually, I remember stuff coming out my mouth at some point, like planting seeds, almost like. And then, but it's like if ever anyone plays computer games and you level up in an area, and it can have like trees grow. It was a bit like that, but I was starting to get swamped in them, and then the owl came and picked me up and took me on, and that came up. And the reason that was so prevalent is that because it was in the West, it physically happened on our plane. It happened. The West is very physical. It happened to us, and it's where our shadow self is as well. It's where our trickster is, and it's the home of the mother for me as well, because it's the cave where we go to retreat, and that's like the womb and so on. So, and that journey was so prevalent, and like, because I had a lot of guilt about my mother's passing, and a lot of things, and you can look at things in rose tinted ways, and rather than, and my mum was a beautiful mum, don't get me wrong, there's not at all, but every life and everything has something in there, and I didn't even know about this. And this lady said it, when she said it to me first, just confused me, and it wasn't for a year later. And I think I was actually in her company when I did it, and I was like, I've done it. I went to there. But I didn't force it. It just came out naturally, if that makes sense. So, and yeah, so that was.
These come when they're meant to, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Sue says, do you have to do drumming? I love listening to the drum beat, but don't necessarily feel the need to drum myself.
Yeah, no, you don't necessarily have to do drumming. But the reason we use the drum is because it changes the wave. But also, you might not pick it up so much over this video. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But there's a spirit in the drum, and the spirit of each drum has a spirit, an individual spirit, and it has the spirit of drum. So when we're talking in say the shamanic realms, we believe that there is an overarching collective spirit, and there's the individual spirit. It's a bit like humans, you know. There's the human spirit, and there's us individuals. And but there's tones and there's sounds that come out from the spirit of the drum. And when I'm journeying, I'm not listening to the boom 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 boom. I'm listening to the tones and the sounds that come out. So and they can take you on that journey, and the sound will change by itself without hitting a different part of the drum. It will change, and it's the spirit of the drum to take you, and it will shift. It could be that bit, it's the cleansing bit. It could be that bit. Oh, I don't know where to go. Oh, there we go. There's a way I can go. But you can go on. Yes, you can do it just with meditation. If you don't want to drum yourself, you can put some nice headphones on. And if you get recordings and you've got decent speakers or big speakers and recordings, you can hear the spirit of the drum as well. But yeah, you can just go. I've done soul retrievals for myself without a drum. Like, I used to work and would sit in a van for quite a bit, and I had my own van. It's like just waiting to do our work because we've got to wait for someone else to finish. And I've just sat there, and I've gone into a journey. But because I know the way, I went down, collected a soul fragment for myself. I can't remember what that one was particularly, but then did the whole process myself, journaled it down. This is a good thing to do, is to journal when we're journeying, because you'll see where you come from and something you might see in a journey at the beginning might not make sense. In the later journey, it does. But yeah, you don't have to. You could do like a deep meditation. You can do some breath. If you can get yourself into like a real trancey sort of state, which is a big part of the shamanic work, the trance state, the altered state, allowing spirits to come and work with us, work through us. But if you can get into that trance state through breath or cyclic breath, or that you could do it that way. But if you can get a drum and listen to the spirit of the drum rather than the beat of the drum, you'll see what I mean. And you don't have to, when you first journey, you don't have to drum for yourself. You can find your way first and then find your rhythm, if that makes sense.
No, brilliant. A couple of things, I think more comments actually, that from Rebecca. I remember this journey, Paul, thank you again. And then she goes on to say, this is the second time I journeyed and came back earlier once I got my intent. Thank you again. So she's just saying sort of thank you.
Yeah,
but then there's a question from John, and I think you actually potentially have answered this, but maybe you can answer it again. Is the trickster out to help us or hinder us?
So trickster, it's funny. Okay, so the trickster, ultimately the trickster is there to help us, I think, but our internal trickster inside, or the trickster, it will make the way a little bit difficult. But the trickster is showing us our own follies and how we act, if that makes sense. So you've got like the likes of the court jester, you've got the likes of the like Joker type shamans or something like that, and they would be very eccentric, but they would point out the faults of the king, say. So the trickster can be very much like that, and it's often in the animal world. It's represented by the coyote, and now so our trickster is there initially to help us. Yeah, it's there to put us away, especially when we're young. If we've had a traumatic event and we just can't remember it, it's doing its job. It's there. It's like, no, you're not meant to remember this. It didn't happen. But ultimately, the trickster is allowing it to play out in other ways. Okay, in your life, the unconscious playing out in other ways. Now, the trickster then can become a hindrance when we're ready to come up against it. But all we've got to do is know that the trickster is there and not fall for the trick. If a child comes and says, knocks your door, and they've got a basket of eggs and goes trick or treat, you go treat. Yeah, and you give them a treat because you don't want your car egged. So it's like, it's like that. So the trickster is there to make the way difficult. But then if we can have a look at our own life, then reflect the journey, say, on our own life, and how we trick ourselves and make it difficult, and we believe it's going to be this way because it's always that way, and we're going into our beliefs and our myths and stuff like that, and actually the trickster's keeping us in that sort of place. And so that's when the internal trickster can be. But ultimately, when we start to make friends with that trickster and we start to know, oh, hang on, we're tricking ourselves, and we're using the reflection of it and we're using the mirrors of it, it becomes an ally and a friend. It basically tricks us saying, well, this is what you really do. Accept it, or do something about it, so that's what. So I see the trickster as an ally rather than a hindrance. But at first, it can feel like a real big hindrance because you're like, what's that? I hope that makes sense.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. We've run over, but it doesn't matter. Just one thing before we finish. Is there anything we haven't touched on before we actually close this down?
I mean, well, yeah, the world of journey, and it's just the beginning. Yeah, it's just the beginning. It's a great beginning to a shamanic path, and it isn't just the shamanic path. There's lots of other aspects and stuff like that. But the world of journeying is amazing. And if anyone wants to get involved, please check out my website. I hope that's okay to say, like newmanpsychicstudies.com. You can get hold of me through there. You can see the events that we've got up, and the journey starts with you. This is it. It started with you as soon as you were born. It ends with you. And when you go on the shamanic journey using the journeying technique, you'll open up the real you. You'll find out who you really are. And that's what it's done for me. So, and I hope you enjoy it.
I know. Thank you. I've put your website on in the chat. I will make sure for those people that are watching via YouTube, I will make sure it's underneath the video and the information there. Please do check it out. If anything that you've experienced here, what you were talking about the drumming, and if people wanted it to go on a bit longer. Yeah, that's one of the things I always say when I'm sharing meditations is, well, you can always pause the video and stay in longer, but what you could always do is take it back and start the drumming section again. Give yourself a bit longer. So there's a thought for folks if they want to be sort of listening to this and think, actually, do you know what? I want to do this again, but I want to do it a bit longer. Then that there are many ways that people can do that. So please do connect with Paul if this has really interested you. John says thank you, and sort of Louise also says thank you. So sort of thank you so much for joining us and sharing. It is tonight. It's actually getting quite dark here. Here in the UK. But Paul, thank you so very much. It's been a real pleasure. Something sort of relatively new to me, and I hope folks have sort of enjoyed it. I'm sure they have actually from the comments and everything and the questions that have come through. So thank you very much. And Sue says super thanks. Folks, next week we've got a today's conversation, importance and benefits of natural products, part 2 with Gillian Robarts. Gillian's been with us before. I hope that you'll think about joining us for other programs here on Gift of Healing TV. It's all here to sort of share information for you. And Henrik also says, thank you. Folks, thank you. Paul, thank you so very much indeed. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Bye.
Sweet souls. Bye.